And here we are again on another episode of Podcast of Traveling Actors with your host, Deaton Gabbard.
And Brandon Wall. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for joining us. What are we talking about today, Brandon?
We are going to be talking about local hires and almost making it.
You see, and I think those kind of go hand in hand, honestly. But first off, for the viewers that don't really know what a local hire is, let's kind of talk about that so they understand. Basically, when you first start out, more often than not, probably like 95% of the time, you're doing lower budget films and projects that don't necessarily have the money for travel or paying for a hotel. So basically, you kind of have to pay your dues. And in order to book these projects that are, out of the state, I mean, we've worked all over the place. Yeah. I mean, like last year I worked in Cleveland as a local hire, and I'll talk about that. You basically have to pay for it yourself. And you're getting paid, obviously, like we're at the point where we're not doing like non-paid projects, but you might end up going even or even under. And like for me and Brandon, I mean, I can only talk for myself, but I'm assuming you feel the same way.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's completely worth it to me because it's all about getting that real footage. It's all about getting the experience because you kind of have to pay your dues, unlike any other,
and which is nice too, is because them seeing oh, these people live in Kentucky, but they're coming out in LA or Utah and they're working as a local hire, that shows them that, we are passionate and we want to do this and we want to be here.
Exactly.
It also helps with networking. They're like, oh, these guys are professional. They took their own money, came out here, bought their hotel. They probably lost out on money, but they're still here and they're doing this because they want to be here and they want to do it. So it just shows a lot about us and our drive to actually pursue this. So I think that's kind of cool. That
honestly, yeah, and it also is kind of a good feeling because you're like, wow, I beat out those LA actors, I beat out those Utah actors, whatever, like the local actors that they had to go out of state to get the right character.
Well, my favorite thing. Well, I love that, and my favorite thing is too, especially with the most recent one I did. I booked something in Chicago as a Chicago local hire.
Yeah.
And it made me happy because just seeing all these agencies in Chicago and a bunch of these actors in Chicago, and they go out of Chicago to book somebody who doesn't even live there. But yet I'm having issues even getting a Chicago manager and agent because they don't like to represent anybody outside of the area. So it just it gives me a sense of like, okay, so I'm not getting these agencies in Chicago, but I'm booking without them anyway, so it doesn't really matter, So it just makes me feel a little better about myself.
And that's the great thing too about like this day and age. I mean, say what you will, obviously, COVID was awful, but there had to be adapting, like evolving of the industry. And one of those things was that like self-tapes were originally not really the norm. At least, well, depending on the market. Atlanta was pretty much already self-tape was the norm, but like New York and LA, they were still doing a lot of in-person auditions, and then the pandemic happened, so that kind of pushed them to, okay, we're gonna have to do self-tape, which eventually led to this is so much easier than having a studio and having people, do a cattle call or something. We're gonna do self-tapes to at least minimize and like narrow it down to the right person. And then maybe we'll do like an in-person callback or like a Zoom callback. The Zoom callback, like live callback is the most like common now. I've actually got one tonight after we record this podcast. Yeah. So like that's one of the most common ways they're doing auditions.
Well, I want you to kind of talk about also, because we talked about this the other day and it's kind of on topic, but when you say, I did an audition and I got a callback.
Yeah.
But I got an audition from a self-tape. So when they do the callback, they did 2 callbacks for me because you brought it up about how because self-tapes now, you can do as many takes as you need to. And once you find that perfect one, you can send it in. So you were telling me that they do more callbacks now. Like they'll do 2 opposed to the 1 because they want to make sure that you're going to be authentic and your audition is as good as it is every time. And not like, having to redo it over and over again until you get the right one. They want to see that you can do it on the spot. So you were telling me about that.
Well, like I heard from, I'll plug in this podcast that's much bigger than ours, but it's called Hurry Up and Wait. And it's an acting teacher. I think he's in Atlanta now, but he used to be in LA, Jordan Woods Robinson. And they actually have like more of the working actor and crew on their podcast. So like what I really like about Hurry Up and Wait is it's kind of like what we're doing. And I feel like we've kind of modeled our podcast of like the way they do theirs. because they don't have like Robert Downey Jr. on there, but they have like the script supervisor that worked for like Supergirl all 5-6 seasons, however many seasons it had or whatever. And so it's like really cool to see like more of the working actor, working crew, especially like when the strike was going on last year, because you really get to see like that other side. And one of the things that they mentioned was like, yeah, because of self-tapes, I mean, we're actors. We can fake.
Right.
That's literally our job, is like professional lying or whatever. And so they have to see, we're professional liars. Is that not what we are?
I hear it all the time though. People are like, "Oh, so you're good at lying." I'm like, I'd prefer you not to say that. It's weird.
I have someone calling me. I should probably mute this. That was Nick. It's one of our guests, our future guest, is calling me right now. Even though I told them we'd be recording. But I forgot what I was saying. Oh, yeah. So one of the things that they do now is a lot of times there's producer callbacks, or like you said, the live Zoom or the ones in person, because they want to see how comfortable you actually are in front of like the bigger executives or like say a bigger actor before you go on set, because they've talked about how they've seen like their self-tape was amazing.
Yeah.
But then they go on set and they haven't had experience.
You know what's funny though? My buddy Jonathan Sudaski, who was in Chernobyl Diaries and She's the Man and all that other stuff. I had wrote him. I reached out to him one day. I was like, "Hey, this was during COVID, and self-tape was like starting to be the norm." I was like, "How did you transition from going in person to now doing self-tapes? Like, what was your like strategy behind that?" And he says, honestly, he said, when I wrote him this is probably the end of 2020, early 2021. He was like, honestly, he's like, "I've never booked from a self-tape." And he's a bigger actor, because acting in person opposed to acting on a self-tape, it's a lot different. I mean, you can honestly book a role in person by your personality. And I've seen and heard people do it. But you can't do that in a self-tape. So he was like, it's really hard, because you don't even know if they view it sometimes, because they're going to get thousands of submissions. And if they're like, "We like this person," they'll never get to your self-tape. So he was like, it's really hard to book from self-tape opposed to being in person, because it's just a lot more people are submitting on self-tapes than actually going in person. So it's just, even seeing somebody like his caliber is like, self-tape's hard. It is hard. It really is. The setup, the lighting, like everything. It's really hard to get it perfect. It's a completely different medium. It's a completely different skill set, honestly.
Like once you learn kind of how to deal with, that small screen and not being able to be personable beforehand, and kind of, like you said, it's a networking opportunity whenever you're more in person, or even the producer callback, or Zoom callback. Like that's just a time that you can kind of, talk to them, let them see some of your personality before you go straight into character work.
Yeah. And I always hear though too, in a in-person audition, they will look at you and be like, "If I can go out and have a drink with this guy, then he would be good on set." And I used to hear that all the time. They're like, "If we can go out and we can have dinner, we can go out and hang out, and I can see him as a friend, he will be a good person on set." And I've heard a lot of casting directors say, "Yeah, we want to make sure that you are going to be very personable, because it's not all about acting. It's also how you are behind the camera and how you act on set and how you act, at base camp or whatever. Like they want to see how you are outside of even acting." So that's what you can do when you go to an audition in person. You can go in there and you can book that room by just walking in and being you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to also look at it as like, it is a job interview, essentially. I mean, you're doing acting, whatever, but if it's like the director's there, or sometimes, the cinematographer might be there, producer, whoever's going to be on set, you're going to be, if it's a feature film, you're going to be with these people as a lead for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. If it's a TV series, it could be 6 months. So it's like, you have to be able to work together. You have to be able to gel.
Yeah. And the thing too that, I don't know if it's on topic or not, but it doesn't really matter. I don't care. Bryan Cranston said this. He said, once you go in there, you give it your all. You give them you give them everything that you have in acting. You lay it all at the table, and as soon as you walk out there, you forget it and don't even think about it ever again.
Yeah.
Because what you're going to do is you're going to drive yourself crazy thinking, okay, did I kill that audition? Did I not? Am I going to get it? When am I going to hear back from them? Hopefully I hear a call next week, and you drive yourself crazy. So I always hear, go in, do the audition, kill it, walk out, get prepared for your next one.
Yeah. And it's so true. Like the difference with the self-tape one now is I will throw away the script.
Yeah.
After I've got it
I do
done,
too.
edited, sent in, I'll throw away the script now.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the thing is too, like what you get as an actor for auditions are called sides. And they might be like 2 or 3 pages of like the full script or whatever. You just get like your scenes. And the thing is, like, you're going to break it down completely different anyway if you book it and you get the full script, because there's going to be all these things that you made choices of that are going to be outlined in the script that you were probably wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that kind of leads into what we were talking about as well, as far as like the almost. So we've kind of mentioned like there's callbacks and stuff. So I'll just kind of go with what the basic format is. Usually you'll have the initial self-tape. You'll probably have another callback self-tape. Might have one more callback self-tape then, or it might go ahead and move to like a producer callback or a director callback that could be on Zoom or in person. I feel like you've done more in-person callbacks than I have, so you can speak more on that.
Yeah.
And then from there, there's what's called check availability. And it's basically like if, say you, there's this one project that I auditioned for in July, but then they ended up not casting that particular character until closer to like October or November. So what they'll do is a check avail, because they know, if you're an actor, you're project to project. So you're just hustling, trying to be on whatever set you can be on. So it's like okay, are you still free during this window now that we have like a, different time period? From there, if they are still interested in you, they will pin you. And for network TV, you are, I think it's called on hold. Yeah. And you actually get paid for that. But like smaller projects, you don't get paid for it.
They call them holding days is what it is.
Holding days. But for smaller projects, you're just pinned. And it's like you're down to like the top 2 or 3. We're checking availability. We're checking like, with our producers or whatever. And then you book it or you are released.
So speaking of release, I want you to go into talking about that feature film that you were booked in Utah, and they ended up releasing you like a week, or not even a week. It was a couple days, wasn't it, before they even started filming?
It was 2 weeks before.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to say the name of it because I don't know if we're actually supposed to talk about this publicly.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially, this was 2 years ago. Wow, it's been 2 years. Mm-hmm. 2 years ago, I was working as a local hire in Utah. And I did exactly what I just said. I did an audition. I did the callback. I did the producer, director, and casting director callback that was on Zoom. Mm-hmm. And we did all of that. I ended up beating out 800 other actors and got to the top 2. And then finally, they booked me. And it was amazing. I mean, it was a very physical role. It was an athlete. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to get too specific with that. But because it was an athlete, I mean, at this point, I had what I called my stepdad bod going. And like, I literally was like in the middle of working that, like shedding that fat off and gaining muscle whenever I actually got the callback.
Yeah.
So like, then I just kept working out, and it was really good experience for me because it taught me discipline. And like now I go to the gym like 5 days a week. But what happened was it also kind of taught me the reality of film. Because we had a meeting with who was going to be my stunt double, and he looked nothing like me. Like, I wasn't, and still am not, like athletic. Like, I look athletic, but that's just because I work out and stuff, and had to work out for Renegade. We'll talk more about Renegade too later on in another episode. But 2 weeks before, we got a call. My agent got a call, and they were like, he doesn't look athletic enough. I mean, it's the truth.
It's a slap in the face, though, honestly.
It is. I mean, you knew that from the callbacks. Yeah. You knew that from whatever. In my personal opinion, having, produced and directed projects, like something of that scale, I would have had a boot camp anyway. Yeah. Because it was a very special skill set, which I'm not going to say because I don't tell the movie. But this particular skill set is something, I sound like Liam Neeson. Yeah. I have a particular set of skills. Can't do them well, though. That's why I was replaced. But yeah, I mean, like, it was just one of those learning opportunities where it was like, it definitely made me not take anything for granted now.
Yeah, and it makes you a little more humble, too. You're like, okay.
It definitely humbled me. I still was able to film in it. They offered me a supporting role, so that was nice of them. I still got to do the film, which... Yeah. It was just rough because at that point, like, I'd had everything memorized, I'd had everything broken down.
And then you have to see the lead, the person that's doing it act now, and you're like, dude, I prepared for that role and everything.
And to be fair, like, this person looked the part. Like, I mean, he was an athlete. He was bigger, like, as far as, like, the muscles go and stuff. And he looked the part. Like, don't get me wrong. It was just kind of a, like you said, a slap in the face where it was like, okay, so 2 weeks before production, you're going to release me.
We're going to pretty much demote you, is what they did.
Exactly.
But we want you to be in it and also see the guy was the role that you had.
Exactly.
Now it's just...
And like we have a theory that because they worked with this director before, that maybe they wanted them first and they weren't available, because that kind of stuff happens all the time. And even like when this happened to me, like a bunch of friends that have done bigger stuff, I talked to them about it and they were like, oh yeah, I mean, this has happened to me or my wife or whatever. And so like it's one of those learning experiences. It's going to happen. And then like all these podcasts I listen to, you know, everyone's talking about like
what's going to happen more than it's not going to happen.
Exactly.
Honestly.
Yeah. And since then also like, and this is kind of like going with that, why it's so hard for the almosts.
Yeah.
And I think it's because maybe we don't mean to, but I'm sure we fantasize about the role.
Yeah, well,
like
for me too, you know, and I'll kind of make this quick to kind of wrap this up.
Yeah.
You know when you kill an audition.
Yeah,
I always know when I kill an audition.
Absolutely.
And when I kill an audition, I'm like, this is it. Like, that was the best audition I've ever done. Like, this is a role that I love. I want this so bad. So you're so fixated on it. And then if you do get a callback, it even makes it even that much better. You're like, okay, now I'm a step closer. And then when you're almost, as you say, when you're almost there, you're like, okay, I just did this last audition. It was down to me and 3 other people. And you don't hear anything else. And you just know you didn't get it. And you're like, it's disheartening because you're like, I just spent all this time and it was my best audition. Because I've been there plenty of times where I'm like, that was amazing. I've done a callback. It was great. And then I hear nothing else. And it sucks.
I'm at the point, I'm not sure if this is how you are too, but this is something you kind of have to learn as an actor. It's like, I'm going to show you I can act. And I'm going to show you that I'm someone that is reliable, dependable. You know, I know the script. I know how to act. And I'm letting everything else kind of just be at this point. Like, either I look like the part or I don't. Like, that's kind of where I'm at. Where I'm just like, even if I don't look like the part, or it's, you know, like the description is an older male or something, like it's supposed to be like older 30s or something. If I get some of the audition, I'm going to do it just to show you I can act.
Yeah.
And like lately I have been pinned 4 times for the lead in feature films. So again, it's just one of those things that's like, you're getting that close.
Yeah, which is a good thing too. I'd rather be that close than not close at all. You know you're doing something right.
Well,
when you're that close.
That eventually it's going to break.
Yeah.
Is the way I see it. Like, eventually there's going to be that part that is the right one for me, and we just haven't really found it.
Well, and then
yet.
they also could be like, hey, like, he auditioned for this. We pinned him. He was top 3. He was great.
Exactly.
It didn't work out. Well, what about this part for him? And it kind of opens up other opportunities too.
And also goes to what we were saying as far as like our perception of making it too. Like, we don't really think that way, but the reality of it is too, like, when I do go back, because who doesn't? When I go back to see who did book those roles on like IMDb and stuff, they've already had like network TV credits. Right. They've already done stuff. So obviously they got an offer and they were waiting for them to reach back out. Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of where it goes.
Right. So it's not a good feeling though, man, when you're almost there. It does suck.
It's not, man, but you broke that.
I did.
And you booked a network TV role. I did. Your first co-star.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that in the next episode.
All righty.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, guys.